Hello, everyone. Welcome. Happy Thursday, and welcome to. Oh, sorry, I forgot. And happy opening day. I don't know if anyone
There it
here that
is.
watches. Yeah, I don't know if anyone here that watches or will watch likes baseball, but of course, it is opening day for baseball. Steve, I know you watch baseball, so it's been a long baseball-free drought. So happy to have baseball back.
Yeah, it's good. Unfortunately, like the whole streaming cable situation going on here, and it's very tough for me to get. I don't have the local sports network, so I can't watch Red Sox games on a regular basis because of fighting amongst contracts and stuff. So I watch a lot of
Uh,
Sunday night baseball out of market, and then catch the Red Sox either out at a pub or when they're on national TV. It's pretty frustrating the way the TVs work these days, but yeah, very excited for opening day, and there's a lot of good storylines, a lot of hype around some of the crochet is legit, Sean. You're right. But I was going through some of the national stuff today, and I mean, there's a lot of the smaller market teams are, you know, Pittsburgh's looking good, Kansas City's looking good. So, I know it's the Dodgers World Series to lose, but I think it should be a fun season across the league. I'm excited for opening day.
Yeah, it's great to have things back, and I think I saw a post on Reddit that you need like seven. I mean, just like the NBA, right? You need like seven different services to watch any MLB game you want. So it's tough. I have MLB TV through T-Mobile, so I don't know if that's where that falls in all of this, but that's how I watch my baseball.
Yeah, no, I don't have MLB TV, and even if I did, I'd be blacked out on the Red Sox games.
Yeah,
So it's just a headache because you're
it's
a guy, right? You're watching the Guardians mainly as your team, so that works well for you.
yeah, I was gonna say. So yeah, so anyway, enough of the baseball talk, but happy to have baseball back. And then we are here today. You can see it's just me and Steve today. We've been abandoned by we're a lonely little couple of people over here. So if at any point you feel so inclined as to jump into the stream, you can see the QR code up there on the top right of the screen. You can click on the link that I'm going to put into the chat right now on both YouTube, where you can hang out with us, or on our Instagram, where we're streaming on my Instagram, Sack Kings Cards. So either of those places, lots of ways you can get involved through the chat, as well as all of you always do. So great to have you guys here. Sean, Depp, thanks for hanging out. Dan, thanks for jumping in. And today we are going to focus on I'm after last week, so I guess I'll give some context. Last week we did a state of the hobby, and of course a lot of that state of the hobby was not the most positive, given like the prices of things and the focus on gambling and repacks and all that stuff. So we thought it'd be a fun little challenge, and we've been gathering data over the last week to try to convince Steve, who is the it would be fun too if Ryan was here too, but maybe he can give us his judgment on how we did. But to try to convince Steve, who is the ever cynical, apathetic basketball collector for the modern times, to that Tops is doing some good stuff. So that's the challenge that I've taken on, and that's kind of where we're at today. So if you are here and you can support me or support Steve or take either side of the fight, we're happy to include all that. And we have a lot kind of built up from what we've solicited over the last few days. Lots of hanging out here. So I'm just going to go through a bunch of the chat. So thank you, Dan, for the positive words on starting on time. K-pop girl, nice to see you. I don't remember seeing you or Will Manister before. Welcome, everyone. Gary, what's up? Welcome. Cheese Hashira, how we all doing? And then, sorry, I missed Depp's comment. We look surely to take a moment to root for my underdog Cinderella Arkansas Razorbacks. Who are they playing? Are they playing today? It's the Sweet 16, right?
They tip off, I think, about 45 minutes from now, and Arizona Wildcats #1 seed, so it's a 1-4 seed, and Depp is very upset with me for they went up against High Point, which I honestly didn't even know they had a D1 program, but they went up against High Point in the round of 32, and it was a back and forth game, and High Point gave them some pressure. And I made a comment in a group chat that I love a good underdog Cinderella story, especially when I don't have a team affiliation. And Depp has been upset with me ever since. So let's go Razorbacks. I'm with you, Depp. Should be, but that honestly should be one of the better matchups of Sweet 16. That'll be a good game.
Yeah, I guess they are the underdogs this time. Cool. Well, while that's going on, hopefully you guys can squeeze us in. Before we get into the topic for today, Steve, do you have any updates to share with everyone?
You know, Joey, I have nothing but negative things to say. So it's an uphill battle with you tonight, trying to convert me to some top stuff because I am cranky at the hobby space right now. So I have no updates because people won't actually ship me cards, and then the cards that I do get shipped are destroyed and out money. So a couple of updates. Last week I said I hope to have some nice cards to share because I extended myself on two very nice PC cards, both autographs that had to go off to the eBay authentication process. And they're still somewhere in transit from the eBay authentication process. It's been 3 to 4 weeks for one of them. So can't get those cards. And then Panini, I got a beautiful email from Panini that they had redeemed 3 redemptions for me about a week and a half ago. Super excited because redemptions. You never know if you're actually getting the card. You might just get a stupid sparkle pack or something, right? Well, Panini decided to pull the great move where they printed a shipping label, so it looks like they're shipping me the cards, but they have not given those cards to UPS yet. So Panini won't send me my cards, and then I did a ComC reveal on our YouTube channel, and one of the things I was really excited for was I paid a premium for an unripped rip card, a Bill Russell card from Topps Treasury, only to get the card in hand and notice that somebody had torn the card in half and glued it back together with a glue stick, and the idiots at ComC didn't pick up on that. And they won't respond to my email. You go to their page, it says to contact us for any issues, and they give you the email address, and they have not responded. But, there's a call center I could sit there and try and call, but you have to schedule with them, and they're only open certain hours. So I'm cranky. So I have no updates other than kind of just everyone, all these companies in the hobby can go pound sand right now. So and Topps Fanatics amongst them. So good luck to you, Joey.
Yeah, you couldn't have gotten like a free Logo Man Crowder shipped to you this week from Panini.
I did get I don't know who's in the group chat. I did get $83 deposited in my PayPal account because I filled out there's some class action lawsuit against NBA Top Shot, which was their NBA's NFT thing back in the pandemic rush. And I opened an account and probably even bought a $5 pack just to see what I honestly, I still can't wrap my head around NFTs, but I did follow through with whatever that class action lawsuit was. I followed the rules in it. I submitted my stuff, and they sent me and a few other collectors $83. So, I got some free money out of it, but
there you go.
No cards. I can't get my cards.
All right. Who'd have thought that in 2026, your favorite hobby experience in the last week was NBA Top Shot?
Go figure. How about you, buddy? What do you got going on?
Not a ton, but I was fortunate enough to get another gift. I got the gift from Hoops Hobby last week. Came in the mail. I think it was today, maybe yesterday. Was a little gift from Mitten State Collector on Instagram. It's this Topps Chrome Zach LaVine Gold Mojo. I don't know what the official name of it is.
Very nice
card. So yeah. So I mean, the good thing is you can see that unlike a lot of, we've criticized Topps photography. It's actually a pretty nice photo, and it it's a clean card. It doesn't have the most shine, but it's numbered out of 50. It's a gold refractor, or I don't know, I guess if you would technically call that a refractor, but yeah, it's okay. Thanks, Dan. Dan says it's the silver pack gold. So that I think is, so I appreciate that. Thank you, Mitten State, for doing that. I don't know if he shares his name online, so I'll just stick with that. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. As always, if you are, thinking of me and when you see a card, I appreciate that. Sean said it looks like he's holding the ball on the card. That's actually true. That little ball up there, it looks like that's the ball that he's holding. So it's pretty cool. And then just a basic, like when I see super cheap cards on eBay, I just follow them to see if maybe I can get them for really little. So I end up getting this Flair Dynasty jerseys. It's got a piece of a jersey worn by Peja, and then it's got Chris Webber, Mike Bibby, Nate Archibald, and Phil Ford. So I just thought it was pretty cool, kind of looking at some of the Kings history that's at least reflected on the card, even though it's just a Peja jersey and it was a total of like 350 shipped. So I'm not gonna argue with something like that.
That's a cool little set. I'm pretty sure they have different parallels where they increase the number of relics on it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So yeah, that's a unique little multiplayer set. I like that one.
Yeah, one of the ones I want to get is a Spurs one that has a Duncan, Robinson, and I think Parker jersey. So like I must be numbered out of 50 or something, and they're not cheap, especially for that set. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool that they changed the numbering on that. And I would love to get a Bibby, Weber, and Peja jersey. So, but yeah, I actually never heard of Phil Ford before. So I was like, oh, that's somebody who was the rookie of the year for the Kings in 1979, I think. So I got some digging to do.
Nice. That's always fun.
Yeah. All right. So let's jump in. Of course, just one last time, if you want to join us, feel free to. The links are everywhere. They're in our story on Hoops Hobby Hangout Instagram, QR code, and things like that. Yeah, in case you're not aware, Dan mentions from the Brewer and the Baker podcast that the silver packs, they're box toppers. Okay, gotcha. So it wasn't from the Chrome release. It was from the packs that were given out with the Topps flagship.
I'm glad you highlighted that message, Joey, because I'm going to set the table a little bit and give you a second to collect your thoughts, knowing how cranky I am tonight. But as Dan was saying, like that was a great looking card you put up there. I would challenge if I really wanted to challenge you, and if I want to be negative Topps, I'd be like, at least tell me what the parallel is, because there's a million parallels, and to name them all is just a challenge. But just to kind of bring people back to what we were talking about last week, and just so people know, we did not mean to go on and bash Topps. I think we were trying to just we really wanted to cover a lot of different aspects of kind of collecting right now, what the marketplaces have been like, shows have been like. And man, we just got on that top stuff, and some comments came in, and the discussion started going, and we looped it back to some memories. Kyle from Wax Museum, it did snowball, but I honestly don't think we were like overly critical. I think we were just giving like a reflection of what it's like, and I was honest when I said I was apathetic about it. It's not that frustrated by what Topps. I mean, the prices are absurd, but that's been happening since Panini. And I do worry about their marketing strategy. I don't like the gambling aspect, and I don't know if they have. They're not trying to. As Kyle from Wax Museum podcast, when he used to have his weekly show, used to say, like, Panini came in, they had to court us, right? It was almost like a dating relationship. They had to try to make us fall in love with them, and Fanatics is just telling us what we should be in love with, right? They're just telling us where to swipe. But why I like that you brought up Dan's comment is I think there's two things that I've really appreciated about Topps Fanatics so far. One is flagship. And for you to get a card that looks great, and I was like, wow, it's a great looking card. As Dan points out, it's from flagship, right? So they released flagship. Flagship got a lot of excitement. People are chasing parallel sets. The black borders were great. And I've liked Topps Now. I don't know. I think they've kind of gone away from a lot of the good stuff for Topps Now. I'm not really impressed with what they did for some of the Olympic stuff. But compared to Panini Instant, Topps Now, the quality is superior. And they're doing the Living Legend set that a lot of people are excited about, and that's sort of a Topps Now thing. So I thought they were getting their feet wet in the right way and getting some momentum. And then I feel like it's just been blah ever since, right? And Adam, who was standing up for Topps a little bit in our group chat, and now has no show because he realized he can't really publicly say that Topps is doing a good job. So he's just no showed on us. I made a comment about something called Topps Cosmic Chrome coming out, and there was a Sapphire Chrome. There was I don't know. So I've been all these different chromes, and how many do we need? And he piped in saying like Cosmic looks good, great, but what is it? Where does it fit in? So it's not that I'm negative. It's just like I'm not really sure what to be excited about. And I know we have some good, got some good Instagram feedback, and I try not to peek at it, but I did peek at a few of the comments, and I do agree with some of the thoughts. So just to kind of set the table about, it wasn't that we were crapping all over Topps. It was that I think we were just kind of like, where can we go from here, and what can kind of get the juices flowing, for lack of a better term, and get people sort of excited and really engaged, because it just seems to be kind of a void in the hobby right now, is all the modern products and the next steps for Topps. I think that's a fair summary, right?
Yeah, I think that's a very fair summary, and I think that actually lends itself pretty well to kind of the thoughts that I had and that the things that I wanted to touch on. So I am I am a nerd, and I think I joked that I could come up with a thesis for you on why. Obviously, Tops isn't perfect, and you mentioned a lot of the stuff that maybe they could be improving on. And but I came up with visuals to try to show like, hey, here's some stuff that Tops is doing good. It's actually I could show it as we talk, or I could kind of keep it more casual. I don't know if you think that it would be useful to show them on the screen.
Yeah, you can pull them up.
Okay. So you can choose whether to interrupt me point by point and give your feedback and disagree or agree or concede or whatever, as I'm sure you eventually will. And or you could just wait till the end. But I feel like that maybe point by point makes sense. So I'm not just sitting here lecturing. And then part of it is Dan has a good point. Like, how can you know where sets fit in 6 months into the release schedule? And I think we mentioned this last week. You mentioned specifically Dynasty, and one of the things that, and I'll just actually go to this. Oh, and you responded, so I'll
Yeah,
read
can
that.
I'm going to interrupt right there.
Yeah,
6 months into the release schedule, fine. They've been creating basketball cards since 1948. We talk a lot about the fact that nostalgia is a very powerful drug. They had some pre-molded, prefabricated ways that they could have come in. And yes, we're only 6 months into the license stuff. They've been testing the waters for about 2 or 3 years now with some McDonald's releases, some unlicensed releases, some NBA PA only releases. So we have more than just 6 months momentum, but also had they just come in with they had a good solid flagship, maybe a heritage set, Chrome, Finest, Stadium Club, Dynasty, or at least be hinting about Dynasty at this point, or a 5-star museum collection, would be in a much better spot. Instead, we've got flagship and then all these iterations of Topps Chrome that don't tie back to any of the 70 years of heritage. Nobody that was collecting Topps basketball in 2008 or prior knows what Topps Chrome Sapphire or Topps Chrome Cosmic is. So that's where I think the disconnect is. And I think they had plenty of chances to let sets build off that drug of nostalgia. So sorry to bark at you already, but
No,
that one got my attention.
no, for sure. And I think it's a tough balance, and it's a tough line to toe, right? Because you're right, but I feel like the lens you're taking to look at this through is similar to what it would have been in 2008. Because hasn't it pretty much been this way since COVID with Panini? I mean, they're putting out flawless and immaculate and whatever halfway through the following season. So it would be the equivalent of putting Dynasty out for Topps to go through for Topps to put out Dynasty in January, a year from now, right? For 25-26. Unfortunately, I think that what has become the norm for all manufacturers is some of the stuff that Topps is doing poorly, but I don't know that we can hold that. I feel like that's being held against them more than it was being held against Panini, where Panini also came out with a bunch of different kinds of prisms. How many kinds of prisms did they come out with? Prism, Prism Deca, Prism Black, Prism Monopoly. I mean, it's not all that different. And I agree with you. I think more variety would make things feel a lot less bland at this point. But I think that a year from now, what we'll see is we'll look back on Heritage basketball, Stadium Club basketball, Dynasty basketball, and we'll say, oh, Topps actually came out with some really good cards and good variety of cards that could appeal to a wide range of collectors.
I agree with that. And the thing that I was going to say for the end, Joey, just to kind of sum it up, and again, not to come off like a complete cranky masshole, is the apathy, I think, is set in with Panini, right? So, and I think that's part of my concern with the way Topps is Topps came in without any baggage. They didn't have stuff that was behind. They weren't already trying to play catch up and finish up a license. But I agree with you 100%. I don't know what Prism Black did for the hobby. It did nothing, right? And I don't even know. And as much as I think some of the Prism, whatever they call the retro, the Deca designs that were, Deca means a decade or 10, but they released it like 12 years after. And I don't know what those did for the hobby, right? So I agree with you a lot there. I think we get a lot of lip service from fanatics about how innovative they are, and for them to come in and not give us any of that, when, like I said, I feel like they had a prefabricated. If they had started out with just taking some time to know what collectors were looking for, which is a release schedule that was on time, give us flagship preseason, give us a series. People would have gone crazy for a series two right after the trade deadline. You know what I mean? And to have the rookies, just because that's what it was like in the 90s, keep it cheap, get us Chrome finest. And in the summer, if you want to supplement some of that stuff with the Cosmic, but get a Stadium Club during the season. I mean, we got 12 games left in the season, right? So, and just because Panini messed up and had this stuff going doesn't mean we should accept it from Topps when they didn't have the backlog. They got their license when they got it. It started when they got it. They should have had stuff ready to go, and it should be stuff that matches, what the hobby's looking for. And I think, unfortunately, we're just getting a lot of rinse and repeat kind of. Like, are you excited? I mean, I'm not like, are you excited to go buy some top Sapphire cards or some top Cosmic cards? Or, I mean, I think would much rather have Stadium Club right mid-season, right? So I think they've missed, that. And just because Panini, like I said, screwed it up, doesn't mean that we should accept that from Topps. And I think we should accept a little bit more, or expect a little bit more, because of, what we believe they're investing in having the licenses, and the work they did to get the, to get all the players involved and everything like that. And, they're giving shares out to the players, et cetera. So we should expect better, because they want to grow the hobby, they say. And so far, that's not the momentum.
Yeah, no, I think all your criticisms are valid. I'm going to run through some comments from the chat and then get into kind of what I had gathered together and put together. So Hoops Hobby, who thanks Hoops Hobby for also kind of sharing your thoughts on Instagram, is here. He said he would add to my side, the Pro Top side, that they are trying to use retro designs in current products. The silver cards, I think the silver pack cards, using the 80-81 design, and I'll add to that, the Topps Living set is the 57 design, right? So that's that. Sean mentioned that they're lazy using the same design as baseball, and he agrees with you that, and they had so much potential. And it's interesting because they did that before, when they, in 08 and 07, or maybe not 07, but 08 for sure, and some previous years. And it's interesting because I think, and Dan, I know you're a major baseball collector. I feel like, whereas basketball collectors love Topps and Topps Chrome from 2008, baseball collectors don't feel the same way about it. If I recall from what Dave and Jason were saying on Overthinking Baseball Cards, they ranked 08 Topps and Chrome as like pretty poor designs, which I know in basketball they're beloved. So it's just interesting how seeing the different sides of that from the baseball and basketball perspective. And then Dan mentions how there's a lot more change in the last 18 years than the previous 30. That's an interesting comment, given the fact that obviously there was all the innovation in the 90s. And then lastly, Gary says that Deco is ridiculous because the time it came out, but it was good, as Panini could do with a nostalgia-based product. So some thoughts there from what we've mentioned so far. I'm going to put onto the screen some of the I think I have 7 things.
I can't wait.
Well, I think for sure the first one, there's no arguing with. That's why it's number 1. I'm starting out strong, but I have 7 things that I think Topps is doing well. And I will preface this by saying this is just about card design and stuff like that. It's not pricing, it's not breaking, it's not how they distribute product, it's not any of that stuff. It's just the cards, because if you're buying the singles, you care about the cards, right? So that's what we're going to start with. And so the first thing is that they have gone back to player worn for rookie cards. And I hope this looks how I expect it to look. Yeah. So they are now using, Panini since 2020, 2021 did the unassociated stuff. I think, I don't want to call it the biggest thing, because obviously that's subjective, but one of the biggest things that Topps, the fact that they've gone back to player worn after half a decade of the hobby accepting and collectors accepting jerseys that were purchased from Fanatics team stores being cut up and put into cards rather than jerseys that players actually wore, I think it's a game changer. Or I don't know if game changer is the right word, because obviously there was a couple decades of history of that. But the fact that I think they could have very easily went and continued the trend of unassociated. Nobody would have said anything because that had been the norm for 5 years. So I think it's well done by them that they went back to player worn, and they are still doing game worn for all the vets. I haven't seen anything that's not for the vets. So props to them on that.
I'll do nothing but agree with you that, and I think it would have been easy. It's almost too easy for them because they make the jerseys, right? To just
Yeah,
make them in a factory, that's the same factory's cards, cut them up and go. So regression to the norm. I'm not going to give a ton of credit because I just think the fact that Panini was doing that was unacceptable, and I don't own any of those cards. They're still doing with WNBA cards. I won't buy them. And frankly, I get really upset when I see a really nice patch auto of what could have been for, say, a star in the WNBA, and just knowing that it's, in my opinion, not worth anything because it has a manufactured patch in. Essentially, one thing I will say about Tops, and this is just more educational. So Joey's on the screen here, you can clearly see around one of the patches that says Player One memorabilia. One of the things I've always appreciated about their baseball and going further back, even their football relic cards, is somewhere on the front of the card, typically they will tell you the quality of the material. They'll say game used, game dated, game used. They'll have an authentication sticker on it. The back of the card will almost always say some weird legal statement about this relic is not associated with any specific game or event, and it throws people for a loop. So
totally.
it's a little different approach than Panini takes, where they put the full authentication on the back. Tops will put it with the relic window. Typically, I can't say for sure they do it with every set, but that's typically it'll be on the front of the card, right with the relic window, either in part of the foil with it or around it, and then just ignore the stuff on the back because it's just the same legal terminology they use across the board. And I literally have cards that are MLB authenticated where you know the exact piece of material it came from. It's logged with the Major League Baseball, the game, the date. You can look up, everything about the game. It's authenticated as game data goes. And on the back of the card, it still says this is not associated with any specific game or event. So just a much different approach that I think people are going to have to get used to in the basketball realm. But well said, Joey. I completely agree with point number one.
Yeah, and actually on that note about the baseball, it totally threw me for a loop because I was trying to buy a Corey Kluber card a year or two ago, and on the back I read that. I was like, I read the not associated with any specific game or event, and I was like, are you kidding me? I thought baseball didn't do this non-associated stuff. And then that's when it was pointed out to me that they did it on the front. It said game used material around the patch window. So yeah, so definitely. And yeah, so that is the first thing, and I just put Q's in parentheses to remind myself it was Aaron Q's Cardboard who was the one who had pitched that as a positive for Tops, and so very good point that Aaron made on Instagram. The second thing, and you kind of brought this up, is I think that we are used to Tops, their strength being chrome and chrome parallels and refractors. I don't think their strength is base photography, design, refractors anymore. I think that they've transitioned a little bit. And again, Dan, if you're still here, you can comment on the baseball side of things. Like, I think in baseball, even, I think their patch, like their memorabilia sets, their patch auto sets, their dynasty, and obviously, Steve, you collect baseball too, so you can comment too. I think that some of their inserts, and a lot of feedback I got, that's why I said it was a common response. A lot of feedback we got was that, Finest was a bad product or Chrome was a bad product, but they had some good insert designs. So I think that our expectations and why Tops is probably advertising and pushing the Chrome and the Finest is because that's what was loved in the past. So I think that is where we are, but I think that their strength has just kind of shifted and we haven't gotten used to that. We haven't adapted to that yet. So that's part of what we'll go through later, but I'm going to show some inserts and things like that. But I think that we're really focused on the base. We're really focused on the parallels. where their inserts and their memorabilia and patch auto sets and things like that are going to come to the surface as their strength. And I put a bunch of sets there that people mentioned. Hoops Hobby mentioned a bunch of these. Big Dudes on the Big Dudes cards. I think he's a Cubs. Gosh, I don't want to say the wrong team. I know like there's a lot of weird football rivalry stuff that I don't get, but Cubs and Packers, I think, collector. So he doesn't do a lot of basketball, but he kind of gave me a lot of good thoughts, and this was one of them. That, you know, since this is kind of what they do well in baseball, is the 5-star and the dynasty and the tier 1 with beautiful on card autos and beautiful memorabilia sets. We may have to start reframing our perspective in that. And then just before I stop and give you a chance to respond, Hoops Hobby called out a lot of the good sets that you mentioned, like Stadium Club and Heritage, which I think would have a lot of love and would get a lot of support. And obviously there's a lot of love for those in baseball. And to Dan's point, I think we need to see what those look like. Obviously, maybe we revisit this after they go through a full season and release those products. But I think when we see a lot of those, we're gonna see that their strength has shifted a little bit. So
I agree with a lot of what you said, but I'll also say, you mentioned a few times, like about we have to shift our desires, and what I would challenge on that is no, like and I'll just speak for myself, I don't, right? Like, and so
sure.
there's a reason that photogenic is as popular as it is, because it's different than what Panini did, and Panini got to the point where a lot of their stuff was just a cropped out picture of a player on a background. As much as I love Revolution Galactics, that's all that a Galactic is. It's a cool background, so I like the design, and I think there's a spot for that in the hobby. But photogenic got people's attention in football and basketball for a reason, and people, I see Casey here talking about set collecting, and I agree that set collecting isn't as popular. I think it's a little more popular in basketball, especially team set collecting, just smaller checklists, and I don't know if Casey, if you collect baseball, some of those checklists, my understanding, it's several hundreds deep, whereas a basketball base set might be 100 cards, 75 cards for something like Revolution or photogenic. But even thinking back, when I say that Fanatics had some prefabricated designs that they could have gone with, even going with Chrome, what are some of the most popular sought after Chrome cards? It's that '08 design, because it was about the photography, right? You have the team at the top, and you have LeBron throwing his, chalk in the air, or you have above the rim pictures. It was all photography. And that's the set that, like, people, when they think Chrome, that's one of the sets they think about. And think about the hype of that very poorly edited LeBron James Prism card from 2021 or whatever, where he was doing the Kobe dunk, and sure, they shrunk, they went Mario and shrunk him down a little bit too much. They didn't edit it great, but that was all about the photography, and they had the scoreboard in the background. So I think just because Topps has something that they do well, and that they can, it doesn't mean they shouldn't do that. But I think as collectors, we also have the right to say, but we want something like this. And Stadium Club is still a talked about set. And even in baseball, photo variations are a thing. People want they want to see the players in maybe, pregame goofing around, or in their different swing set, or their switch-handed, batter. They want to see, photos from both sides of the plate. How many of Ken Griffey Jr.'s cards, his most iconic ones, are sought after ones, show that gorgeous, sexy follow through of his swing, right? So photography still, in the end, we're collecting pictures of players, even they're on a card. So I'm going to challenge the part that base design of photography isn't key. And I think when we think back of some of the sets that really get basketball player collectors excited, it really is about showing those moments from the game and really giving. And it's not all of it. Like I said, it's not all of it, but there are those that are very heavy on give us good photography, no borders, something clean. So it's a good mix that we need.
And I think it's coming. I just think that, like, I think the shift we're overemphasizing the shift. I don't think Topps is any different or any worse than Panini was. Their Prism, their hoops, their pictures, their photos, they're all it's all a mix of both. And I think Dan had said it at some point. Yeah, not all pictures are created equal. there's going to be in the same set some with great pictures and some with terrible pictures. Okay, and so I agree. I think that that's going to be the case. I think that was the case in Chrome and Flagship. We said there are a lot of dribbling pictures, and there are, but I picked out a bunch of really awesome photos from Chrome and Flagship. And so I think, I guess my point isn't that these things don't matter. I think that, whereas, I mean, think back to late 90s and early 2000s. You had Chrome, you had Pristine, you had Finest. They were all so focused on in-game shots and beautiful photography. Obviously, Stadium Club too. I just think Topps has shifted with the times. I think that, similar to Panini, where, I mean, we've crapped on Prism so much on this show. I don't think that Prism, for being its Panini's flagship or popular Chromium set, I don't think it did any better than Chrome has done. So yeah, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
No, optics greater than Prism, and so far I haven't seen Topps give me optics. So you're just telling me why I should like Topps.
I mean, I think that, to your point about photogenic, I think there's no way they don't come out with Stadium Club. I guess that's something we'll have to see. And so you mentioned KC's point, which actually, I don't know. I feel like I do see a lot of set builders in baseball, but I don't know. Maybe that's not true. Gary said the way Fanatics is pushing the breaking and searching for the case, I think the case hit, like the big hits, makes him think they won't be pushing heritage in basketball very hard, which is an interesting point. And I don't know if you agree with that or not, Steve, but I think they really should. I mean, nobody knows what Topps will do, but the fact that they're, like you said, they have 70 years of heritage and legacy on these cards, to me, would be foolish for them not to be pushing heritage as a set.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I don't have a thought on that other than one of my fears is that they kind of do the sort of rinse and repeat thing of just sort of cranking out the same stuff and do focus on the breaks. I really am, and I'm responding to Hoops Hobby right now that says I think maybe there'd be a little more excitement, optimism if Topps could just give us a little insight into what their future sets are, even tentatively, and let us know as collectors like what to expect in the future. Even if they just start leaking it out, like other industries do, whether it be cars or Legos or whatever. I mean, stuff gets leaked, but it's whatever. But yeah, so will they? I'll be interested to see if they start to get sets out there like a Heritage or something that isn't great for the breaking community, but it's just something to have in hobby shops and for set to collectors to go at. And maybe there's some autos, but there's not a singular, all Kings style case hit. So I think to be determined on that, but I hope they do. We don't know what their plans are, so we'll see.
Yeah, I think that would be smart for them to do. And Dan said he doesn't get comparing Prism and Chrome, the better comparisons, Optic and Chrome. I agree. I think Optic is more aligned or paralleled to Chrome, no pun intended, than Prism. But I just think that Prism is the more popular one, which is Chrome. It's like the popular Topps set is Topps Chrome, and the popular Panini set is Panini Prism. So yeah, exactly. The only thing that's similar is that they're the most important and respected and popular. So, all right. Anyway, let's move on to the next thing. And the next thing is, I just wanted to show some inserts. I forgot before I move on to that. So, like I said, I think some of their inserts, I think they do really well. Like, I think there was a lot of love. I think I Collect Wade mentioned it in the chat. I got, I think he mentioned it also on Instagram, that the flight path insert, that KG there in the middle. I didn't use a Celtics card to bias you at all. I think that one got a lot of love, and I think they do have inserts, and a lot of people mention the midnight inserts like you see on the right. So that's a midnight insert called the Daydreamers. That's a crazy name to me, but a lot of people at least shared that they like those designs. And then on the left, you see a Sonic Boom insert from Flagship. So I do think they have really nice looking inserts, and you can say what you want about Topps 3. That flight path is a beautiful card. And if that's their strength, that's maybe just, again, like I said, that's just to support my point that I think their strengths have just shifted a little bit. but these were some of the inserts that people called out as beautiful, and that was a very common response. Like I said, that their inserts have been really on point in all their releases, really.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you doing some of the research, Joe, and putting this all together, and gathering. It's interesting about inserts being maybe their strength right now, and just maybe that's why part of my apathy is I'm just not a big insert collector. It's nothing against them. Like, I can appreciate the look of them. I have always been more of a traditional base set, true, quote unquote, true rookie. As the parallels have gone up, I enjoy the parallels. But even I remember, to use the WNBA, which I collect, more. I search WNBA cards more than NBA cards right now. I remember getting a gold parallel of my favorite WNBA player, an insert. It was called Groovy by Prism. And I remember thinking I got it just because I wanted a gold of my favorite player, but it just didn't do anything for me as an insert. Like, the true gold would have meant a lot more. So for me personally, I'm just not a big insert collector. I will usually find a couple low-end ones of my favorite players or binders I just like the looks of, but I'm not one that's ever going to chase like a case hit or a super rare insert. I'm more likely to go after a good-looking base card in parallel and then go for the autos and patch cards. So maybe it's just that Topps' strengths aren't aligning with the way I collect, and maybe that's sort of the takeaway, and which is apathetic, right? So okay, then I just don't care about it.
Well, Dan thinks you're boring, so
the Kansas City Royals are boring, all right?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, it's like, for all that we can say about Topps and what's good and what's bad, if what's bad is not aligning to what you collect, I mean, that just means that they're not right for you right now. So, and that could be true for a lot of people. I mean, it's not uncommon, I think, that people collect and focus on base. So yeah, so that's a great point. The thing that I did want to mention next is what we talked about with the photos. Like, I think that, like I says on there, like, I think there is an overstatement of how bad the photography is. I think, like, I'm not going to say this is 2007 Topps Chrome photography with the beautiful with the beautiful some horizontal shots and like you said, above the rim and dunking and all those things. It's obviously not that, but there are some good photos throughout the releases we've seen so far. So here's, like, there's some Finest. That's that auto, and that's the Wemby auto. Obviously he has a dribbling picture in the foreground, but in the background is that picture of him kind of celebrating something. The AI driving, obviously that OG. I mean, if every card could have a photo like the Anunoby right there as the third photo, and that's his flagship. I don't know if it's a variation or whatever. Or like the Jared Allen on the right. I think that there would be I don't know why they can't do that. Getty is getting images of all these players doing these things. I don't know why they can't do that. And I get that it's a criticism. And I'm not saying that their photography is up to what it should be. And here's just another slide of photos that are good. But kind of like I was saying with Panini, it's unfortunately what the norm has become, right? I mean, Panini for 15 years was doing this. So if we're not going to hold it against Panini to the same level we hold it against Topps, I don't think that it necessarily makes sense. I think there should be more consistency to the standard we hold them to. So I don't know if there's anything additional to add. Do you have any thoughts?
No, I think just when I think of photography, I mean more of like the entire design of the card. So like, I want to see more of the in-game action. I don't want as so much of the busy backgrounds. Like that Wembanyama on the far side of the screen there does nothing for me. I mean, that's, yes, the good emotion on his face. I hope it's a real picture and not AI generated. I much prefer the style of that Timberwolves team card there, where you're getting more of the in the game action. And I agree. Like I said, a lot of my frustrations have been just in the basketball industry or hobby in general. We've gone away from some of the stuff that I think is more, has better eye appeal. With that Cooper flag, I mean, that's a great looking auto, right? You got an action shot, probably from like a photo shoot or something. It blends in well with the border. The big spot for an auto, like that's a great looking card. I would also just want then to have like a base card that goes along with it. That's like a good in-game action shot, not like the Edgecombe next to him being a base card where it's like, okay, now we just have like two photo shoot style looks to them. Does that make sense? So I'm looking more at like the whole photography, not just like the individual image when I say photography.
I completely agree, and I think that's why something like that Jared Allen card, like it's a fine
Yeah.
photo,
I
but
think that's a great looking card. You know,
yeah,
it's you know probably a little. I would love to see him like actually at the rim, right? So maybe not so
right.
zoomed in, but that's just nitpicking. I think that's a really nice looking base card. And if you are a Jared Allen collector, or if you wanted to go after a Cavs set and they all had similar action shots like that, I think that would look great. I think that's a nice looking card.
Yeah, and I don't think it's nitpicking. I think it's a very fair criticism, and I think that I don't for some reason it doesn't bother me as much in baseball, but for basketball, it really pisses me off that I don't see the players standing on the ground underneath him looking up at him and the rim that he's about to dunk the ball into and the fans cheering or whatever, right? I think that there's just so much lost potential and it's no additional money to zoom out. It's no additional rights that they need or whatever. So I don't think it's nitpicking. I think it's a fair criticism. There's definitely a lot of improvements to be made. And I think that Ananobi is perfect proof of it. That's an awesome photo. So, all right, let's talk about the next thing. And it's related to that flag auto. And this was one of the things that Big Dude's Cards mentioned. And that is that in the flagship chrome, so Topps Chrome you see on the left, Panini Prism on the right, the fact that Chrome has on-card autos, Prism has 0 on-card autos. And that's insane for the most popular Panini product, or at least the most popular low to mid-end Panini product. That's crazy. And on top of that, and I don't know if this bothers people, but if your preference is really base, the fact that they don't have what Chrome has, which is the base card with the auto on it, they have an insert set. All the Prism autos are inserts rather than autos, on card autos on top of the base card. I think it makes a big difference. So I think that was a really good point that Big Dude's Cards called out, and I think that's a huge improvement. Not just on like, oh, Topps sucks as much as Panini. That's a huge improvement Topps made over what Panini was putting out.
100%, and I could argue that this could be point number one, and I'm going to respect the boundaries of this discussion and not bring up the packing out and the breaker boxes and stuff. Mm-hmm. Assuming that these autos are equally distributed and people have chances to pull them, I would say that this is probably the biggest improvement. I think over time we just have to see, what the ability is for collectors to, pull these cards by ordering a box or going to a shop, but that's the other side of the Fanatics business. Not has nothing to do with Topps as far as card distribution or card creation. So I agree, and one of the reasons that Optic is better than Prism is the on card autos that they offered for a while, right? So
totally.
Yeah, and Gary makes a great point that Prism has never been about the autographs. Agreed. But if you're going to offer them and you're going to charge, what's a Prism box? It's got to be $3,000 a box, right? It would have been a nice part to have. But so when you're doing a side-by-side comparison, if in their sort of flagship, I know it's not their flagship, but they're, for all intents and purposes, when basketball collectors think Topps, they want Topps Chrome. And if you can get on-card autos of the stars in that product, that is a very significant change that they're offering us. I agree with you, Billy.
All right. See, I feel you coming over. I know that next week is going to be your first Topps purchase. So, all right, let's go to what's next. So next, I actually think that they do a pretty good job with some of the backs. Like, I know that it's not what we're used to. We don't have the 90s backs that have the really cliche descriptions and all the stats and stuff like that. But some of these backs, and I put the flagship back on the very right for one of the rookies. It's just what you'd expect from a base set, right? From a flagship set with his college stats and then some blurb about him. But I really wanted to highlight those two on the left, the Daydreamers that I mentioned, and that the one from the insert from before was the Dirk. And then the All Kings that you had mentioned in the middle, and I know it's a popular set, and it's the case hit, and it's popular in baseball, popular in basketball. Those are really artistic and kind of beautiful backs, and maybe that's not what everyone's preference is, but I think it looks really good. That All Kings, I don't know if that's foil on the back, if that's a foil back, but if that's a hollow foil back that's etched in like that, that's beautiful. So, and I'm going to just say before you respond, I recognize that there is some terrible backs. These are the backs of some other cards. So the middle is the Chrome version. So flagship has a nice back. Chrome has crap on the back. And then, some other insert backs, but I think they do a really, really good job. And Dan confirms that the All Kings is foil on the back. And he comments that he always hated the Panini backs because of the same exact picture. Yeah, Panini always uses the same exact picture that's on the front. Not always, but especially in their later years. So maybe Topps doesn't do the 90s backs that we all love, but I think these are really well done artistic back designs.
That top flagship is all I need in a back. While I wish we had more stats, I think we're not going to the back of cards anymore to learn about players like we were in the 80s and 90s and really like I used to go through my binders and try and like look at the guys I knew were all-stars and the guys that weren't and try and just like get a sense of who the players are in the league and stuff. Google can tell us that instantly. So give me a little bit of a narrative, a little bit of a write-up, and a couple basic stats, maybe where the player's from. I think that's all I need, and I like that. The All Kings, I think, is great because that's a premium insert. That's a chased insert, and you're really tying the design together. I have no use for that Daydreamers background. Sure, it looks good. It doesn't add to the card at all for me, and I would much rather there be I don't even know what I'd want on that, but that one particularly does nothing for me. But the other two, I can see a lot of stuff from. And like you said, that like what they're doing with chromes on the back of those cards, that to me is unacceptable. That looks like a Topps Now or Panini Instant offering as far as the back of that card, right? But
I didn't grab a shot of Topps Now. I could do so pretty fast, but I think for the sake of time, I just won't. But Topps Now actually does a much better job of describing the backs. Like whatever event they're commemorating, they describe what happened on the back. So yeah, I agree. That Topps Chrome one is rough. Drew just joined. Welcome, Drew. And he says, is anyone else bothered by how Topps doesn't fully chrome out the players themselves anymore? Do you know what that's referencing? I don't know what that means.
So I honestly was going to put a few questions out for people to consider and maybe get back to us, but I do want to know what the quality of the refractors are, or even the chrome effect, because I did get an Olympic chrome golds, and like very little of the card I would say has a true refractor design to it. It's a lot of it is just chromium, and then there's parts that have the refractor on it. And the overall shine, I think I said to you in a group chat, Joe, is more of like a paper foil, like the Stadium Club foil, than it is the traditional refractor. So I don't know. I don't know. You know? Sorry, I'm distracted by Sean Beasley saying the style of being abducted as a child is on the back of that one card. Guardians of the Galaxy reference there. Love that movie.
Okay, I was gonna say because I wasn't unsure what that was referencing.
Yeah. No, that's what Yondu's pulling poor little Star-Lord up after his mom passed away. Yeah, so I don't know, Drew. I haven't seen them in hand as much. I honestly don't think I have any baseball chrome cards either. For baseball, I tend to go Stadium Club, and then patches. So yeah, not sure if they've changed the way they design it or they changed the print. Maybe Dan can pipe in a little bit and say if he's noticed any change in the chromium aspect of cards over the years.
Yeah. And Dan also mentions the back of the chrome that we don't like is the back of the auto only. The base is not that way. The back of the base looks like the back of the flagship. I just looked it up on eBay, so it does.
Okay, that makes sense.
So that's good. And then Drew clarifies, it used to be that the player jerseys were also chromium, which meant that the refractor showed on them too. Not anymore. So I think, like you mentioned, Steve. So
that's disappointing. I know what he's referencing. Yeah, that's too bad.
That is unfortunate because it did used to look beautiful when the whole thing refracted. And then I Collect Wade says that it seems that the autograph gold is less desirable than a base gold. That I think is probably true. I don't know. I mean, I think you're right. I think it feels like people care about the base gold more, but I wonder now that the autograph golds are on card. I mean, with Prism, it made sense. The gold autos were stickers. So that's a turnoff. I don't know if that's going to be the same now that they're on card. All right. So let's move on. Two more things. And you mentioned this already, Steve, but one of those things is the print to orders. I think Topps does such a better job with the print to order sets than Panini did. You already talked about Topps Now. It's so much higher quality. And I think Kyle Wax Museum had mentioned this, that like just the quality of the paper stock is better on Tops now. I think both of them have great photography. I picked out also one of the Tops Now bow menus because I think it's really cool that college collectors and player collectors get the option of um, the college ones too. So I think Tops does a really good job with that. And they do such a good job with the Tops Now in terms of its quality. There's parallels that are more beloved. I don't know if they advertise it more. They do autos and patches and in baseball game used bases and things like that. I think they just have a more extensive and robust instant or now offering. And the living set too. I mean, that's look at that penny kind of hand drawn kind of 57 Tops themed. It's just something that you can't get elsewhere, right? I mean, it's just you'll never get. That's somebody that's a penny collector that also loves the 57 set. It's pretty niche, but it's really cool to have that offering, and they do a really good job, and they're really high quality. So I think that they do awesome with their print to order sets.
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, if we're talking just the cards, I mean, I'm gonna break the rule a little bit. The issue with Tops Now is they use it as a lottery ticket system, right? So they will get like a couple parallels and they'll say, hey, randomly inserted within, the more you order, the more you buy. So if you like this card, people go on to buy one and they end up buying 10, hoping to get, an out of
Yeah.
235 parallel or the one-on-one auto. So I think there's some ethics issues with it. I do think both companies, Panini and Tops, don't do a great job advertising it. Like you never know when they're going to make one, and I think Tops maybe makes too many moments for Tops Now. Um,
Definitely.
so I think it waters it down a little bit. But when you get them in hand, I mean, they're on a true card stock. The Panini ones feel like they're on printer paper basically, and you've got a little bit of a foil style, not foil, but sort of a rainbow effect in the back. It's got watermarks that say Tops Now, so you know what it is. It's just they're a much nicer product. They could do better with choosing, being more selective with important moments. But when they do make a nice looking one that recognizes a nice moment in sports history, they do a really good job with it as far as the
Yeah.
card design.
And I'm pretty sure that when it comes to the memorabilia and autos, that the lottery system is new because, or not new, but relatively new. The original Tops Now, they had a base version of some stuff, and then they had the memorabilia version, the memorabilia auto version that you could buy directly for like $100. You pay $100, you get the auto, you whatever. And I think you get the auto, you have a chance to a parallel auto, but yeah, you didn't have to buy 50 of the base in order to get a chance to get the auto. So I think that's a very fair point. And given that that's the only way to acquire them, I guess, other than secondary market, like if they're print to order, it kind of makes sense that that's a criticism. Dan has a theory as to maybe the player not being chromium on the chrome cards could make them stand out better on the background. And Sean confirms that is how Tops Now used to be, and there were only a handful of colors when that started. Yeah, totally. I mean, obviously, everything's parallel to death now, but it's just I don't know. We don't have to accept it, but I guess I don't know how you can continue to collect stuff like that without accepting it. And then the last thing, and this is something that Big Dude's Cards mentioned, is that apparently Topps customer service is way better than Panini. So a couple things, they changed Topps to a 10-year redemption expiration. So if you get a card today, March 26, 2026, it expires on March 26, 2036. So and they retro dated that back to, he said, 2022 or 2023. I didn't confirm any of this.
Why? They promised us they were getting rid of redemptions. Why did they have to make redemptions last even longer?
It's a fair point. I think that's a fair pushback. But obviously the benefit is that if the redemptions are there, it makes, a 2025-26 product. It doesn't make their opening them futile in 2030 if they're Cooper flag redemptions or whatever. So, so that was one thing, as well as the fact that I don't know if you're familiar with what happened with the Topps Chrome Blue X Fractors. They were supposed to be mega exclusives, I think, and they were advertised on the boxes, but they were never packed out. And so Topps did a 1-for-1, no proof of purchase necessary, I believe, trade in your regular X Fractor, we'll exchange it for a blue X Fractor. So those were just a couple of points that Big Dude's cards had. And I, as somebody who doesn't deal with the customer service of either company really at all, I can't really add to it, but those are the things that he appreciated about it.
Yeah, and I think one thing we missed that goes into some, I guess, some of the redemption stuff, and I guess it doesn't really fit here, but in terms of the experience and what Topps offers is the MVP exchange thing that seems to be pretty, popular in baseball. And I know, people are. I think one of the reasons people are looking for a little more product to come out is because they maybe want to grab some SGA or Jokic cards or rookie cards, maybe see if they do that redemption thing. And I honestly don't know much about it, but I know it was really well received by a lot of collectors on the baseball side. I know basketball collectors are looking into that. So there's definitely some unique things that they're offering, and good to see that they fixed the blue X Fractor, situation. I think they remedied a problem that should have never happened, and they had the blue X. It's not like they went and had to make something new. They just didn't pack out these cards, so they're sitting on cases of these X Fractors anyways. So they but they did right by the customer in the end. The redemptions being 10 years, I think that, I don't know, I guess, again, see how that plays out. I mean, that doesn't make me feel great about a product. They're like, hey, we are going to have redemptions that go for 10 years. Will that make them more comfortable putting redemptions in, because it's not going to kill the cost of the boxes that they're going to be selling themselves, as opposed to, is it better for the customer itself? It seems a little more protective of the company than it does a good thing for the customer experience. I would, rather than be working away from redemptions and have them short term with a trade in value or something, than say, hey, these things are good for 10 years, so keep ripping, guys. That one doesn't feel as good to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. I mean, on the surface, it sounds good, but I think that's a great point, especially given that they were trying to get rid of redemptions. I didn't think about that. So, and Dan says the MVP buyback was a response to a screw up in 2022. That must have been on the baseball side. I don't know what that was, but yeah, apparently it's popular. That's all I have. If anybody is in the chat still and has any thing else that they want to say, pro or anti Topps, that please throw that in. But I think to summarize, I think that Topps is kind of carrying on a lot of Panini's legacy. I feel like one of the things that I used to summarize Panini's time making cards is it's a whole lot of nothing, like a whole lot of sand, and you're digging through beaches and beaches and beaches of sand to find the things that you feel are like beautiful gems. So I feel like it's similar. I mean, until I did this, honestly, I did feel pretty similar to you. I actually said it last week too. I said that Topps has no personality and everything seems the same. But and that could be because I'm a little jaded by my team this year. Like, I have an active desire not to collect 25, 26 cards because I don't want Kings rookies this year. Even though, one of them, Maxime Renault, is doing really well, might be a first team all rookie. I just don't want to be reminded of this season. And so that could color how I've felt and how I've pursued Topps cards. But I think that, again, at the end of the day, just like Panini, they have a whole lot of crap that you have to sift through to find something that you can collect. But there's just so many options that I think if anybody looks, just like Panini, they'll find stuff that they like and stuff that they can collect and stuff that will fit with their collection. So that's my case. I'm done, Your Honor.
I think I hope I end up agreeing with you, right? And I do hope that eventually Topps gets to a point where there is a wide variety of stuff to go after, right? But I fear that the present. I was not expecting a slide deck to go through to mimic this. I'm really impressed. I appreciate it. It definitely gave a lot of. It was much easier to have this back and forth with us looking at the same material. So I do appreciate you putting that together. I'm going to go with Hoops Hobby. What Hoops Hobby said, and I wish Topps was giving us a little bit more about what's coming down the line, so we can start to organize what we might be looking for. I personally have like again the Topps base, the Topps flagship, as we're going to call it now, because they use a baseball term. Great, that seemed like a home run product that hit the way it was supposed to. Initial chrome with some on card autos, that sounds great. You go pound sand with all these sapphires and cosmics and all that other stuff until you start to diversify, right? So again, I need to see more so that I can start to say, where's my lane? Because I agree, I can't tell you how many products Panini put out that I don't look at whatsoever, but we know enough to be able to go find what we like within those products. So hopefully Topps gets to that point. I'm going to keep an open mind. There's still not much that I'm buying a bunch of right now, but we'll see. We'll see where Topps brings us.
Yeah, and I don't know what's going on with my camera, but I think it'd be interesting, and if this was good and if people liked it or whatever, we could always I think it'd be interesting to do this after a full season of 25-26 Topps. Like once Stadium Club comes out and Heritage and Dynasty, and they've got all their offerings, are they satisfying all the needs of collectors, and it sounds like maybe for you Stadium Club would be what you collect from the Topps world, if you collect anything. I'm not saying you have to, obviously. So it'll be interesting to revisit that. And it's a good thing that Adam's not here to read Sean's comment about Topps now.
It's kind of refreshing, right? We didn't have to listen to anyone yelling about Jaylen Brown.
And Dan says there's a little in baseball as Topps ramped up to basketball. Are they doing the same thing with football?
I talk about
a lull.
I don't know, because they're approaching the football thing, and I don't pay as close attention, but it seems like they're approaching the football thing very differently. So Dan, just to give you a little background on the basketball, they started ramping up basketball very early on. They started doing some amateur sets. There was some G League stuff, some McDonald's stuff, some Bowman University stuff. Then once they got the NBA Players Association first before the NBA license, they started doing some unlicensed but player stuff, so they could use the images, the player's name, got some autographs. So they spent a couple of years ramping up to basketball. I have not seen that with the football side of things, so I don't know what their plan is for the football side of things, how they're going to launch that. So I don't know that we even have a sense of how that's going to impact basketball at all. But if there's a lull in baseball because they were getting ready for basketball, and then if there's going to be a lull in basketball because they're getting ready for football, I'll say it again, they can go pound sand because they should have been ready for this. Like, they're going to buy these licenses, they should have been able to have the capacity for it. Just like I don't really have much empathy for them if they're going to be behind in scheduling your releases already, because you had time, several years, to plan for distribution. In the end, my main thing with Fanatics is, at the base, they are an e-commerce company that is used to developing and distributing product. So they get no slack from me if they're not distributing product in a timely manner, and there's lulls because they're ramping up something. But we'll see.
And just to follow up, he was saying he was referring to the 2 months leading up to Flagship's launch. There was almost nothing released. So maybe not what Fanatics released leading up to their license, but what Panini was or like the in-between. There was an in-between between Silhouette and Flawless and all that stuff, which released really late, and then Flagship, I guess. I think that's what he's referencing. So yeah, I don't know. I don't collect football, so that's all you, Steve, if you know anything there.
But I just want to also just say thanks to everyone that was in the chat tonight. I thought it was very engaging, and I mean, some great points brought up. And in the end, I tried to play a little shtick of being like anti this or that, just to kind of go along with it. I'm not super excited about what Topps has so far, but I've definitely looked from afar. I've watched some breaks. I did actually pick up a Marvel Topps card because I got an autograph signer that Upper Deck never got. So I'm definitely paying attention to it. I just want to see more that grabs attention and isn't just some of the same stuff over and over again. Oh, I'm very proud to be a Masshole Dan. I have actually.
Yeah, and so just to thank you all by name, Dan and Sean, Raphael, you were here, Drew, Gary, everyone that's been here, Hoops Hobby, and I know a few of you also were sharing your thoughts on Instagram prior to this throughout the week. So thank you all for giving your thoughts. That it makes it, like Steve was saying, it's a way more engaging. Hopefully, definitely for us. Hopefully for all of you too, but and everyone and that's watching. And hopefully it is like we're just hanging out. Darren, Chris on Instagram, Watashiwa, Aaron, Q's Cardboard, Tim, Forkbeard's Forkbeard's basketball cards. So everyone that kind of shared their thoughts, pro and anti tops. And I just think it's important to note in the survey or whatever, I think we shared it. It was like 92 or 95% of people were tops haters. And there was, I think, a single person that was pro tops or said, yeah, I'm on board with, I believe in tops that they're gonna give us good stuff. So hopefully, I don't even know that I convinced myself. I don't know if I did. I don't know if I didn't. Hopefully it was fun. The process was fun, and
time will tell. That's the real takeaway. Time will tell.
Yeah. All right.
So we all have to go watch the Razorbacks take down the Arizona Wildcats with Depp right now in the Sweet 16. So be well, everybody. Enjoy your night, and go Arkansas.
See you guys.